So here we are, at the final part of this journey, and I want to leave you with something powerful to carry forward. You see, this isn't just about lust or desire, it's about coming home to yourself. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that were lost, hidden, or forgotten, the parts that long to be seen, held, and loved, not because you have to earn it, but simply because you exist. There was once a boy, quiet, curious, gentle in ways the world didn't know how to hold. He wanted simple things, to be heard, to be held, to be loved without conditions. But in his world, love came with strings attached. Smile more, don't cry, be strong, be useful, make them proud. So he became what they needed, and in the process, forgot who he was, not out of rebellion, but survival. Because when your softness is punished, you learn to harden. When your emotions are dismissed, you learn to hide. And when your worth depends on performance, you learn to perform. He grew into a man, confident on the outside, sharp, desired, but inside, he was still that little boy staring out the window, wondering why love always felt like a reward instead of a right. So he started chasing women, not to connect, but to feel wanted, to feel seen, to feel like he mattered, even if just for a moment. He believed it was lust, told himself it was natural, masculine, even. But the truth, he didn't want sex, he wanted safety. He didn't want her body. He wanted her gaze, the way it made him forget that he never got to be a child in peace. When a boy grows up unseen, he becomes a man addicted to being desired, because desire feels like visibility, like proof that he exists, that someone finally notices. But it never lasts, because desire without intimacy is a flicker, not a fire. And so the chase begins again, a loop of longing, climax, collapse, not because he's insatiable, but because he's still waiting for someone to look past his body and say, I see you, I see the boy beneath the armor. But most don't. They fall in love with the mask, not the man. And over time, he forgets there was ever anyone beneath it. He becomes the role, the seducer, the strong one, the emotionally unavailable one, not because he wants to be, but because vulnerability was never safe. There's a moment that happens to every man like this. He's lying next to someone beautiful, kind, everything he thought he wanted, and yet, he feels nothing. No depth, no connection, just the echo of an old ache he still can't name. In that moment, he realizes something devastating. He's not with her. He's with the fantasy. He's not present. He's performing. And performance, no matter how passionate, can never replace presence. That's the wound. Not that he craves too much, but that he was never taught how to sit with what he craves, how to feel without fleeing, how to ask without begging, how to receive without proving. Carl Jung would say every man carries this unhealed boy within him, and until you turn toward him, until you look him in the eyes and say, you don't have to perform anymore, he'll keep showing up in lust, loneliness, moments that feel like love but vanish the second they're touched. So here's the invitation. Stop chasing, stop performing, stop trying to fill the emptiness with fleeting moments. Turn inward, meet the boy inside, hold him, love him, tell him he's enough, because when you do, something shifts. You stop projecting your soul onto others. You stop needing someone else to complete you. You begin to reclaim your own wholeness. You begin to live from a place of presence, not performance. And that's when lust stops being a trap and becomes a teacher. It becomes a sacred signal from your soul, pointing you back to yourself. So, if this message has touched something inside you, if it's helped you see your cravings in a new light, don't let the insight fade. Remember, this journey is just beginning. You don't have to walk it alone. Subscribe to Sickpose for more videos that go beyond the surface, into the mind, the soul, and the truths most people avoid. Because healing, growth, and true connection start with one simple step: coming home to you. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself. Alright, let's keep going, because this is where it gets really real. You've spent years trying to outrun that feeling, the craving, the heat, the urge that rises like a wave and crashes down with guilt. You've tried ignoring it, fighting it, numbing it, drowning it in silence, then noise, then shame. But here's the truth. Lust was never the problem. Repression doesn't heal. It fractures. It deepens the split between who you are and who you pretend to be. Carl Jung never told us to destroy our desire. He told us to understand it. Because lust, when you strip away projection and addiction, isn't sin. It's a signal. It's the soul's flare in the dark, a cry from the unconscious saying, there's something here, something you haven't faced yet. Healing doesn't come from denying the craving. It comes from sitting with it, breathing with it, asking it what it wants to show you. Not with fear, not with judgment, but with presence, because presence changes everything. When you stop trying to escape the ache, you finally hear what it's trying to say. I miss you. I need to be seen. I'm not lust. I'm longing for you. That's the shift from addiction to awareness, from performance to presence, from chasing bodies to listening to your own. This is what Jung meant by integration. Not killing off your shadow, but folding it back into the light. You begin to see that lust isn't something to be ashamed of. It's something to learn from. It shows you where you're still disconnected, where you're still starving, where you still believe that love lives outside of you. But when you integrate, you stop searching for love in others because you've remembered how to offer it to yourself. So next time the craving shows up, don't run, don't scroll, don't perform. Stay. Stay with the ache. Stay with the breath. Stay through the heat without feeding it. Let the discomfort rise. Let the fantasy fade. Let the silence speak, because within that silence is your answer. And when you finally feel it, not as an enemy, but as a part of you, everything shifts. You stop fearing your desire, and you start hearing it. You stop being consumed by it, and you start transforming with it. Lust becomes sacred when you understand what it's pointing to, the part of you that's ready to return home. So ask yourself, what are you actually craving? Not the rush, not the body, not the moment that makes you feel wanted, but beneath it all, what is the ache really asking for? Because the truth is, it was never about her. Not really. She was the mirror, the projection, the spark that reminded you of something you lost long ago, yourself. You didn't crave her touch. You craved your own truth. You weren't chasing love. You were chasing your own presence, the part of you that got buried beneath performance, pressure, and pain. Carl Jung believed that desire, when misunderstood, becomes addiction. But when seen clearly, it becomes transformation. And now you have a choice. You can keep searching for her in images, fantasies, fleeting arms, hoping she'll save you from yourself. Or you can stop, turn inward, and meet the one who's been waiting all along. Because the wound wasn't your fault, but the healing is your responsibility. You don't need more content, more stimulation, more women, more highs. You need you, your breath, your stillness, your buried softness, your forgotten light. You keep reaching outward, thinking salvation lives in her gaze, but it doesn't. It lives in your return. So here's the hardest truth. You were never addicted to her. You were addicted to the feeling of being whole. Now give that back to yourself. Because when you stop performing and start being, when you stop chasing and start listening, lust becomes a teacher, stillness becomes a sanctuary, and presence becomes your power. You don't need her. You need you. All of you. And that's where everything begins. Let's keep going, because there's so much more to unpack here. You see, this story isn't just about abstract ideas. It's about real people, real struggles. Like the man I mentioned earlier. On the outside, he looked confident, successful, even magnetic. But inside, he was still that little boy who never felt truly seen or safe. This boy had simple needs: to be heard, to be held, to be loved without conditions. But the world around him said, smile more, don't cry, be strong, be useful, make them proud. So he learned to hide his softness, to perform, to become what others expected. Not because he wanted to, but because it was the only way to survive. As he grew into a man, he carried that hidden part with him, the part that longed for unconditional love, but never got it. So he chased women, not to connect, but to feel wanted, to feel alive, even if just for a moment. He told himself it was lust, natural, even masculine, but deep down, he didn't want sex. He wanted safety. He wanted to be seen for who he really was. Here's the catch. When a boy grows up unseen, he often becomes a man addicted to being desired. Desire feels like visibility, like proof that he exists, that someone finally notices. But desire without intimacy is a flicker, not a fire. It can't fill the emptiness inside, so the chase continues over and over. A loop of longing, climax, collapse. Not because he's insatiable, but because he's still waiting for someone to look past his body and say, I see you, I see the boy beneath the armor. But most don't. They fall in love with the mask, the confident, charming exterior, not the man underneath. Over time, he forgets there was ever anyone beneath it. He becomes the role he plays, the seducer, the strong one, the emotionally unavailable one. Not because he wants to be, but because vulnerability was never safe. There's a moment that happens. Too many men like this. They're lying next to someone who seems perfect, beautiful, kind, everything they thought they wanted. And yet, they feel nothing. No depth, no connection. Just the echo of an old ache they can't name. In that moment, they realize something devastating. They're not with her. They're with the fantasy. They're performing, not present. And performance, no matter how passionate, can never replace presence. That's the wound. Not that he craves too much, but that he was never taught how to sit with what he craves, how to feel without fleeing, how to ask without begging, how to receive without proving. Dong Jung believed every man carries this unhealed boy inside, until you turn toward him, look him in the eyes, and say, "You don't have to perform anymore." He'll keep showing up in lust, loneliness, moments that feel like love but vanish as soon as they're touched. So ask yourself, when was the first time you felt invisible? When did you start chasing love instead of receiving it? When did your body become your armor and your desire become your language? Because the man who chases women endlessly is often just a boy trying to rewrite a story where love was withheld. But no woman, no matter how beautiful, can rewrite that story for you. Only you can. Not by chasing, not by performing, but by coming home to the part of you that's still waiting at the window, waiting to be seen, to be loved, to be enough, without doing anything at all. You might think it's her eyes, her voice, her softness that draws you in, that it's her body stirring something urgent, primal, irresistible inside you. But the truth, it's not her. It never was. It's you. The part she reminds you of, the part you forgot, the part you buried to survive. Jung called this the anima, the inner feminine that lives within every man. Not feminine in terms of gender, but in essence, tenderness, emotion, intuition, surrender, the ability to feel deeply without shame. When a man represses these traits, when the world teaches him to disconnect from his emotional body, to value strength over softness, stoicism over sensitivity, he loses contact with this inner feminine. But it doesn't disappear. It goes unconscious, and from that shadowed place, it begins to project. So when you meet her, the one who moves like music, who speaks with softness, who radiates warmth and feeling, your soul wakes up, not because she's your other half, but because she mirrors a part of you you forgot was even yours. You don't crave her. You crave the reunion with yourself. This is the spiritual distortion many men never see. They think they're falling in love with a woman, but what they're really doing is falling in love with their lost soul through her. That's why the desire feels so overwhelming, so sacred, so irrational, because it's not sexual. It's symbolic. Your soul is trying to come back to itself, and it's using her as the mirror. But mirrors can't hold you. They can only show you what's missing. And when you don't understand this, you start chasing her, possessing her, obsessing over her, not because you love her, but because you think she has something you lost: her softness, her warmth, her glow. But what you're really chasing is the version of yourself that knew how to feel. And here's where it gets dangerous, because no woman, no matter how radiant, can complete what's missing in you. She might awaken it, she might inspire it, but if you haven't met your own inner self, you'll turn her into a fantasy. And fantasies always collapse, because the more disconnected you are from your own soul, the more pressure you put on hers. You want her to carry the weight of your unmet needs, your suppressed emotions, your forgotten beauty. But she wasn't designed for that. No one is. So the relationship begins to break, not because there's something wrong with her, but because you're not really with her. You're with your projection. Jung warned about this. He said when the anima is unconscious, a man becomes enslaved by what he called erotic fantasy. He doesn't see the woman. He sees the myth, the dream, the symbol. And the moment she reveals herself as human, with flaws, boundaries, limits, he feels betrayed. But the betrayal isn't hers. It's his own soul reminding him, this is not your path to wholeness. This is your invitation to turn inward. Because the truth is, the more you chase her, the more you abandon yourself. You're not pursuing love. You're avoiding reunion. Not with her, but with you. So the next time you're captivated by her presence, ask yourself, what part of me is she awakening? Is it your softness, your sensitivity, your longing to be touched emotionally, not just physically? Because once you become conscious of this, everything changes. You stop chasing women to feel complete. You stop projecting your soul onto strangers. You begin reclaiming it, integrating it, living it, and suddenly, you don't need to consume beauty, because you've remembered your own. She was never the destination. She was the signpost, the mirror, the messenger, pointing you back to the place where your tenderness still lives, waiting to be felt again. And when you meet that part of you, you'll realize you were never chasing sex. You were chasing your lost self through someone else's body, and you can finally stop. Because what you were looking for was never her, it was you. Let's dive deeper into this idea of craving something real, something beyond the surface. What you're feeling isn't just about physical desire or lust. It's a hunger from your soul, a longing for connection, meaning, and wholeness. This is where things get interesting, because lust, when misunderstood, becomes a trap. But when seen clearly, it can become a powerful signal pointing you toward healing and growth. In many spiritual traditions, lust is often seen as a challenge, even a danger. It's described as an intense desire that can consume us if left unchecked. It narrows our awareness, pulling us away from the present moment, and from deeper connection, both with others and with the Divine One. Lust can feel like a fire burning inside, demanding immediate gratification, and in doing so, it cuts us off from the subtle, quieter parts of ourselves that hold true peace and presence. But here's the thing, lust itself isn't inherently evil or something to be feared. It's a natural human energy, a creative force linked to life itself. Deepak Chopra calls this sexual energy Shakti, the universal creative power that flows through everything. The problem isn't the energy, it's how we relate to it. When we try to suppress or deny it, or when we use it purely for self-gratification, we miss its deeper potential. Instead of stopping desire, the spiritual challenge is to transform it, to channel this powerful force toward unity, connection, and spiritual awakening. This means lust can be a doorway, not just a dead end. It can reveal what's missing inside us, the parts of ourselves we've disconnected from or buried. It points to the deeper yearning for self-actualization, for expressing our full potential, for connecting with something greater than ourselves. 6. This longing isn't just about sex or physical pleasure, it's about the mind, heart, and spirit. Seeking fulfillment, Carl Jung's idea of the shadow self, helps us understand this better. The shadow is the part of us we hide or deny because it's uncomfortable or doesn't fit with how we want to appear. Lust, in this sense, can be the voice of that shadow, a cry for recognition and integration. 5. When lust becomes obsessive or compulsive, it's often because the shadow is trying to get our attention, showing us the emotional needs and wounds we haven't faced. So what does this mean for you? It means that next time you feel that restless craving, instead of shaming yourself or trying to push it away, try to listen. Ask, what part of me is this really about? What am I longing for? Beneath the surface, it's rarely just about sex. It's about wanting to be seen, to be known, to be loved without conditions. This is why lust can feel so painful and empty. It's not fulfilling because it's not really about the body. It's about the soul's hunger for connection and meaning. And when we try to fill that hunger with fleeting pleasures, we end up feeling more disconnected and alone. This cycle, craving, chasing, momentary fulfillment, then emptiness, is what Jung called the shadow-seduced loop. It feeds not just on lust, but on our forgetfulness of who we really are. 1. Every time you run from that ache, you teach your nervous system that stillness and presence are unsafe. But the shadow doesn't want to destroy you, it wants to reunite with you. The key is integration, not fighting or denying desire, but understanding and embracing it as part of your whole self. When you do this, lust stops being a source of shame or addiction and becomes a teacher. It shows you where you're disconnected, where you're starving for love and truth. This is a radical shift. Instead of chasing others to feel complete, you start turning inward to meet the parts of you that have been waiting all along. You learn to hold your own pain, to be present with your own longing, and to offer yourself the love you've been seeking outside. And here's something important. No one else can do this for you. No matter how beautiful or loving someone else is, they can't fill the emptiness inside you. They can only mirror it back to you. That's why relationships often feel unstable or disappointing when we're not whole within ourselves. When you meet someone who awakens something deep inside you, it's not really about them. It's about the reunion with your own lost self, the tenderness, softness, and emotional depth you may have buried to survive. 5. This inner feminine, or anima, as Jung called it, lives in every man as well as every woman. When it's unconscious, it projects outward, leading to obsession or fantasy, instead of real connection. So the spiritual path isn't about rejecting desire or lust. It's about recognizing it as a signal from your soul, a call to come home, to yourself. When you stop running, stop performing, and start listening, lust transforms from a trap into a guide. This journey isn't easy. It asks you to face your wounds, your loneliness, your shame, and to do so with compassion and presence. But it's the only way to break free from the endless cycle of craving and emptiness. Remember, you're not broken or weak. You're simply disconnected from your needs and your deeper self. The ache you feel is your soul's way of asking to be seen and loved by you. You know that feeling, the one nobody talks about. It creeps in late at night, when the world is quiet and no one's watching. Your phone is in your hand, your mind won't stop racing, your body feels alive, but your soul, it feels missing. So you chase something, you scroll, you click, you fantasize, not because you're bad or even lustful, but because you're empty. You tell yourself it's normal, just biology, stress, a release, but deep down, you know better. Because even in the chase, you're not really there. Your body moves, but your heart is somewhere else. And when it's over, the silence returns, the ache, the guilt. Not guilt from morality, but from meaninglessness. You've felt this before, not just after, but during. Even when it's intense, wild, thrilling, you feel distant from yourself. You tell yourself it's about pleasure, but what if it's not? What if it's never been about the body? What if it's about the wound, the one you never got to speak, the one no one ever saw, the one that didn't bleed but hollowed you out quietly? Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. What if lust isn't desire, but escape? Escape from boredom, loneliness, shame, the unbearable silence of your unmet self. You don't just want her. You want to be held, to be known, to be seen, without having to perform. But instead, you chase pixels, bodies, moments, a fleeting surge of aliveness that fades as fast as it came. And what's left? The same void, the same ache, the same unanswered questions. You're not chasing her. You're chasing the part of you she reminds you of, because the real craving isn't for touch, it's for truth. It's not lust. It's loss, the loss of connection to your body, your purpose, your soul. Here's the brutal truth. Lust isn't the enemy, it's the symptom. It's your soul trying to get your attention, in the only language it knows, because there's a wound inside you. One you never asked for, never wanted, but have carried long enough. And if you're honest, you know exactly what I mean. This isn't about shaming you. It's about revealing what Jung believed was the real meaning behind desire. Not sin, not weakness, but soul hunger. And in the next few minutes, we'll explore what that hunger is trying to show you. Why your cravings hurt, and how every act of lust is secretly a message from the deepest part of you. The part that's not trying to feel pleasure, but to feel whole again. You've been told it's natural, that lust is desire, and desire is life. But what if that's not true? What if what you're feeling isn't lust at all? What if it's hunger, not the kind from the body, but from the soul? The ache beneath your chest when the world goes quiet. The kind no screen, no fantasy, no climax can ever satisfy. Because here's the truth, no one tells you. Lust is rarely about sex. It's about escape. Escape from the unbearable emptiness that creeps in when you're no longer distracted. It's about numbing the ache of disconnection, not just from others, but from yourself. Every time you reach for another hit, another body, another high, you're not reaching for pleasure, you're reaching for proof. Proof that you're still wanted, still alive, still capable of feeling something. But what if the reason you crave that rush is because you've been running on empty for years? There's a wound inside you. Maybe you can't name it. Maybe you pretend it's not there, but it shows up anyway in your restlessness, your endless scrolling, your fantasies that never satisfy. In the quiet moments that feel like suffocation, because what you call lust might just be your soul screaming, I'm starving. Feed me something real. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who seemed to have it all together, charismatic, ambitious, always chasing women. He believed what he felt was desire, told himself he was in control, that every conquest was a win. But late at night, when no one was watching, he felt it, that void, lying next to someone who once thrilled him. He felt nothing. No connection, no warmth, just a dull ache he couldn't explain. He kept going, chasing, performing, until one day, he asked himself a terrifying question. What if I don't actually want her? What if I just don't want to feel alone? That changed everything. He realized he was using her body as a distraction from his own emptiness. He didn't want love. He wanted escape. Something to cover the silence inside him. He wasn't chasing her, he was fleeing himself. That's what most people don't understand. Lust today has become a drug. It offers the illusion of power, freedom, being wanted. But underneath, it's a dopamine loop. Trigger, fantasy, release, numbness, repeat. And the more you feed it, the less alive you feel. Because the pleasure isn't real. It's not rooted in connection, intimacy, meaning. It's rooted in performance. You play a role, follow a script, climax, and collapse. Then you're back where you started, alone, hungry, empty. Jung didn't see lust as a moral failure. He saw it as a spiritual signal, a flare from the unconscious, a warning from the soul. Because when you're truly whole, you don't chase, you don't cling, you don't search for proof in someone else's body. You become desire itself. You radiate from within. You don't need to consume to feel alive, because you're already connected to something deeper. But to get there, you have to stop lying to yourself. Admit the craving isn't random. That endless lust isn't a need. It's a mask hiding the fact that you've been disconnected for far too long. So next time you feel the pull, stop. Don't repress it. Don't act blindly. Just ask, what am I really craving right now? Not the image, not the surge, not the escape, but the real thing, the real need. You might hear an answer that surprises you. Not sex, not release, but something softer, deeper, older, something that sounds like, I want to be held, I want to be known, I want to come back to myself. Because maybe, just maybe, you've never been lustful. You've just been hungry for something real.